After we blow the shofar on Rosh Hashanah, we sing a small prayer that begins Hayom Harat Olam. And most Machzors translate that as today is the birthday of the world, or today the world is born anew. And it's a message of hope, of newness, of refresh, all of the things that we like to associate with Rosh Hashanah. But in 2021, in 5782, I struggle a little bit with that message. I don't feel like I've had a year of new beginnings, of exciting new things coming down the road. To me, it's felt like a year of a lot of repetition, of a lot of uncertainty, and a year in which it's almost with disbelief that we are now in our second COVID Rosh Hashanah, our second COVID high holiday season. After a year of ups and downs, of false starts with recovering from the pandemic, and then having to experience setbacks. And so is today really the birthday of the world? Are we really experiencing something new? Or is that message something that maybe feels a little bit difficult to connect with this year? And so I was trying to think of alternative ways of understanding this to help enhance my connection to this tefillah that we say after we blow shofar. And I was looking at the original context with where the expression of Hayom Harat Olam comes from. And it comes from chapter 20 of the book of Yirmiyahu, of Jeremiah. And Jeremiah has been imprisoned and tortured, and he's so angry, he's so upset that when he comes out, he's expressing his upset towards God. And he curses the day he was born, and he says, it better should have just been Harat Olam. And what it means in this context is it better he should have stayed in his mother's womb forever. Maharat is a word associated with birth and pregnancy. And so he says, better I never should have been born. I wish I could have just stayed in the comfort of my mother's womb and never had to confront the real world. Now, that's a very stark message and not one that I agree with or identify with. But if you distill it down to its core, what Yirmiyahu is saying is, this is very, very hard what I'm going through right now. And I wish that I could retreat to the comfort of where I originally came from and not have to go out and encounter all of the pain in the world. And this, I think, is a message that some of us can identify with this year. A sentiment of we've retreated forcefully. And now some of us, even when we've had opportunities to go back out, it's been a real struggle. We encounter pain in the world in the news with seeing so many terrible things happening all around the world. And then there's also just the basic struggle that we've all gone through of the pandemic. And for a lot of people, it's been really difficult to just get vaccinated and then go out and see people again. Even before we then had to retreat a little bit more with the Delta variant. When we had those few months where it felt like, okay, we can really go out and we can enjoy each other again, a lot of people felt like, well, I'm not ready, or they just didn't have the emotional, mental fortitude to be able to just let everything that happened slip away and to just go out and to begin anew, to experience a new world. And so this year, I think many of us would identify more with the Harat Olam of Yirmiyahu, the Harat Olam of retreating, of not wanting to greet the world, instead of the Harat Olam of the prayer that we say after the shofar, the one of acknowledging new beginnings and rushing to embrace new beginnings. Now, the question is, so what do we do with that? So how do we greet Rosh Hashanah this year? How do we think about the fact that this is a new year, new beginnings, and also our second Rosh Hashanah of COVID, our second Rosh Hashanah in which we aren't able to maybe be with family or friends or community the way that we wanted to? And so in thinking about, well, what is the message? How can we construct something useful to take with us? I looked back more closely at that chapter in Jeremiah. And before Jeremiah curses the day that he was born, he expresses something very human and very fundamental to the human condition. And that is, he expresses his enormous upset at the total isolation that he is experiencing. Part of what makes Jeremiah curse the day he was born and wish he could just retreat from the world is that he was doing it completely alone, that no one was there. The definition of being a prophet is that you're alone and you have to convince everyone else of your message. And he says, I'm in total isolation. And that seems to certainly be a big component of the pain that he is experiencing. And then I wondered, well, how many of us are experiencing our struggles this year because we feel isolated? Whether we feel physically isolated, or whether we just feel like we are having struggles that other people aren't identifying with, and we feel like we're the only ones going through whatever it is that we're going through. And the reason I wanted to talk about this today, rather than just share an uplifting message and move on and pretend like, the world is not a big struggle in many ways, is because I think it's really important for us to be able to say out loud, here's where I'm having a hard time. And once you do that, you invite the possibility for community. And when we find community in our struggles and in our challenges, then we're able to work together and to try to at least meet each other in the pain that we're at, and hopefully begin to connect with each other and engage with each other. And with that, I just wanted to say that I'm so honored to be part of this community and happy to be able to know that we can share messages with each other of, here's where I'm having here's where things are going wonderfully, and here's also where things are a struggle. And that despite the fact that there's been so much isolation and so much separation this year, we've still found ways of helping each other, of being there for each other and really supporting each other. And it is only with that sense of community, that sense of mutual support, that we can meet each other where we're at and help to begin to take us from the Harat Olam of Yirmiyahu into the Harat Olam of the prayer after Shofar, in which we begin new things together and we create new things together, because that is only possible with community. And so whether you are going to be in shul in person or davening from home, I just wanted to wish you a Shana Tova, a sweet, happy, healthy new year. And I'm so honored to be part of a community with you. Shana Tova.